Hello friends and welcome to Figure Study, where we appreciate the form in Transformers, and today we're back with more Titan's Return and Sentinel Prime. Now, okay, I'm probably in the minority here. In fact, I'm fairly sure I'm in the minority here, but I actually kind of like Sentinel Prime's train mode. I mean, the color we'll get into because orange, but the actual, just the molding, the shape of it, all that stuff, I actually really like. Now, yes, the coloring is not great. I mean, the entire figure, the color scheme is kind of lackluster, although it does kind of pull together a bit more in robot mode, but, you know, it's just, you've got a little bit of gray here and there, and then it's just orange and red. And then, like, a little bit of yellow up there, and, like, a couple little spots of yellow around there. And it's orange and red, and I'm not big into that color scheme at all. But, like I said, I actually really like the train mode just for its shape and molding. Like, it looks like a train. And there's actually some really nice detail in the completely unpainted train bits in the front. And it just kind of carries all the way along, where you've got all these little bits of molded detail that carry on through here. And unfortunately, you've got the train wheels here that are painted, and then these are not, which stinks. But yeah, there's a lot of molded detail to this, and I kind of touched upon this with Wheelie, and I wanted to wait until getting to the bigger figures for this. But yeah, just one of the things that really makes me enjoy the Titan's Return line as much as I do is the fact that they went so far to add texture to everything. Like, there is not an inch on any of these figures that I have, that I can recall at least, that has any blank space on it. I mean, look at this. There's like teeny tiny little doors molded into these train bits, and like a ladder there. There's so many tiny itty bitty. There's another door. There's another two doors. There's so much texture to these figures, and I love it. It looks really, really good up close. And yeah, you know, the color scheme, not great by any stretch of the imagination, even by my own fairly accepting standards. But I am in love with the amount of just molded texture and detail that they added to all of these different figures. And you better believe I'm going to be pointing it out with the rest of them. But yes, Sentinel Prime's train mode is not bad. Really. I mean, it's train. It's a long thing. It's like a little bit over a foot long, and it's obviously a train. I do kind of wish we could do something else with these, though, because these little fins, it's either have them down, have them slightly up, or have them all the way up, and I'm not a fan of any of those options. I feel like it would have been nice if they could, swing back or hinge all the way down to kind of get them all the way out of the way, but whatever. And while we're on the subject, we might as well hinge all that out of the way and take a look at the actual Titan Master. So, get the train out of here. And here we have Sentinel Prime's Titan Master. Don't know the name of this guy, don't care. He is orange. He is very orange. Orange and a little bit of gray. And we're going to ignore the face on the back because we'll get into that when he's in his proper robot mode. But again, there's a lot of little textures to this, a lot of little molded details, which I do really appreciate. I am not too keen on the fact that the face is painted a shade of red that's almost indistinguishable from the orange. But still, that's a tiny detail for them to paint, and I do appreciate it. I mean, overall, yeah, it's simple. I mean, it's a Titan Master. It's a headmaster that has barely any articulation and is really tiny. So of course there's not going to be a ton of detail to it, but I don't know, it's just like they didn't do a lot with the paint, but they did a lot with the molding, and I really appreciate that. And I think this actually, just from a texture standpoint, again, gonna keep talking about texture, but this guy actually looks pretty cool in that regard. So, put him down. And pull the train back into the station. Woo-woo. Yep. A little bit further back there. There. Nope, not quite. There we go. So yeah, I am one of probably 3 people who's a fan of this train mode, but I don't care. Anyway, that is Sentinel Prime's train mode. Now we're going to take a look at his shuttle mode, which honestly I'm less of a fan of. And here we have Sentinel Prime's shuttle mode, which I'm just less of a fan of, mostly because it's not as interesting or unique as the train. It's just, you know, it's a shuttle. And it's not bad looking, it's just less interesting to me. But, you know, again, mostly orange and red. A little bit more yellow that you see in this mode, and also the big chunk of gray right in the front, which isn't bad. Yeah, it's not bad. And there are some more details that you kind of start to notice a little bit more just because of the angles. Like, you've got these vented scoops here in the front, which don't seem like they'd actually serve a purpose in space, but whatever. And again, just the amount of molded detail all over every inch of this figure is really cool. And a lot of this stuff is stuff that you don't even see in train mode, because like these flaps were originally train wheels and covering that up, so then they flip back around and flip back around and reveal more detail. These bits come together to make a sort of pseudo cockpit, which is completely unpainted. Which stinks. Yeah. But it's overall really good looking, and I do like how these wings kind of fold underneath these bits here and create a more seamless look. That is a nice touch. And again, you know, just lots of really nice molded detail. One of the things that really does bug me about this mode, though, is when you flip it this way, it is so obviously a robot that's just, you know, partially transformed. It's a little bit of a shame. But it's alright. Then, you know, just look from the back here, not bad. It's a little bit of almost like a thruster detail there, which is nice. You could argue that these spots on the shoulders that are obviously shoulders could be thrusters as well, and back here. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just the overall shape of it is fine. It's just kind of unremarkable. And the color is not great. It's just like a sea of red with a little bit of orange and then some gray in the front. Although I do appreciate the yellow on the sides that pops a little bit more. So unfortunate is you've got these silver bits here that do stand out nicely, but if you're looking at it from this angle, you don't ever notice them. Whereas these bits right up here, if those were painted silver, those you would notice. So yeah, it's a toss-up. And of course, train wheels. But they don't read as train wheels when they're pushed together like that, so that's alright. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, which I neglected to do with the train mode, get rid of this here. Hello, buddy. Bye, buddy. There's even some really nice molded detail inside the cockpit area. And again, that's just coming back to how much I appreciate what Hasbro and Takara have done with the texture of these figures. So yeah, there's the shuttle mode, which is fine. Could definitely use more paint, and I'm still not a huge fan of the color scheme overall, but it's nice. The overall texture, you know, again, love the molded details on this thing. But now it's on to robot mode. And here we have Sentinel Prime in all of his Sentinel Priminess. And I have to say, I'm actually okay with this. I mean, I'm still not huge into the orange and red color scheme, but there's enough of a color breakup in robot mode that it doesn't really bother me too terribly much. Like, you've got a lot more visible yellow, a lot more gray. There's just more visual interest to this mode than there were with the other two. I mean, aside from the train being a really unique shape for a typical Transformer. But yeah, he's not bad looking. He's, you know, pretty don't want to mess with him looking robot overall. He's big, he's imposing. He's got goofy little pointed feet, which is okay. Not, you know, wouldn't be my first choice, but whatever. But here you just do see just a lot more yellow and gray, and the red which the red in this particular instance doesn't blend in as much with the orange as it did in some of the other modes. From a distance, it kind of still does in some places, but overall, not bad. You can actually see the silver here now. So yeah, not bad. And then of course you get the added benefit of being able to decide how you want to display him, because you've got the wings on his back here that can be flipped out to give him a little bit more of a wider silhouette, I guess. Personally, I prefer to just leave him folded back. And then, of course, he, whoop. That's a, here. Oh no, that's the worst kind of splits. Okay. So then with the head, you also have the choice of these goofy little pylons here. So you can either have them up or not. I prefer to leave them up just because Sentinel Prime, he's a Prime, Regal, blah, blah, blah. Kind of look like pauldrons or something. So I prefer to leave them up like that. But even here, you can see there's like a really decent amount of molding detail on here. And the face it's a good looking face. I mean, the red and the orange are kind of, again, not the best combination, but the blue does work pretty well for the eyes. And the actual shape of it is nice. There's lots of just like little bits of molded niceness in there, which I'm totally into. And yeah, just looking at the rest of this body, like, I really do like, and I'm gonna keep saying it, I really do like just the texture and the molding that they've done for all of these figures in the line. It looks really, really good. I mean, they even have a little bit of molded detail on the not the forearms, on the biceps there, and right around the elbow joint. The the legs, which I had split goofy so I could get a good look on the head there. The legs have a nice amount of molded detail to them. It's just a great line for molded details. I don't know what it is that made Hasbro and Takara decide that this is what they wanted to do with Titan's Return, but I'm okay with it, because all that texture does look really, really good. Now, I've been going back and forth with myself on getting Astro Train, because I do actually really like this mold in general. Like, the fists are a bit of a pain to get out, but other than that, I like the train mode. I like the shuttle mode for what it is, even though it's pretty simple. And I like the robot mode. But I haven't quite been able to decide if I want to get a second version of this mold, because I'm not really a fan of having duplicates, even if they're, repaints. So I'm just not quite sure. But I will say Astro Train does look good. But honestly, I think Sentinel Prime looks pretty good too. Definitely a lot of orange. You will not get scurvy with this guy. But I don't know, I mean, just, yeah, there are so many things about this that I do appreciate, and so many things that I feel like could have probably been done better, namely the color scheme. But overall, he is still a really decent looking robot, and I don't really regret him at this point. I might end up replacing him with Astro Train inevitably. Eventually, not inevitably, because I still haven't decided yet. But he's not bad. Really, it's just the lack of color color details that hurt him. And honestly, I think if that red stood out more from the orange, like more than it does now, then it probably would have done a lot to help. If there's more of a contrast between colors. But it is what it is, and really just shape-wise, molding-wise, not a bad figure at all. So, that has been my look at Titan's Return Sentinel Prime. Probably one of the, as I've said, one of like 5 people who don't hate him. But, as per usual, thank you everybody for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Any combination of those three will make me a happy Rob. And remember, art is more than meets the eye.